Welcome to Section 7 as we are wrapping everything up and pulling it together. This section is more of a suggestion session to you to help you to begin to think about putting together policies and procedures for how to do counseling at your local church. And so what I want us to do is in your Section 7, you have some things here, and I want you to look at those as we kind of talk. If you notice, if you turn to the policy section, I gave this to you, and then you can critique it or adjust it any way you want. This is just kind of a way that we've set up at our church, a policy, if you will, of our counseling. And if you look at our website, Community of Faith Bible Church, COFHouston.com, you'll see that we have this on the webpage so that prior to coming to counseling with us, people kind of get an understanding of what we do, who we are, how we stand. I won't read all the details, but this is something that you can use with the permission of your pastor. You guys work together, tweak it to fit the context of your ministry. But it's just kind of a policy that I try to say to people, I need you to read this before you go any further to make sure that you understand who we are, how we operate, what we do, and what's expected of you. And so this is just a policy that you can use and have people read prior to coming to you for counseling. Let me show you another thing I want you to look at. Notice in your next section, it says consent to biblical discipleship counseling, release of liability. This is very important. All the sue-happy people in the world and all the legalities that are out there, this is a particular format that we use to try to basically say, you came to us, this is who we are, you release us from any liability, the normal release of liability process. But it just talks about a waiver of liability, and it lays out details of what we do where we're not 100% confidentiality, where we must report and have to report. So this is information that you can use, tweak it again as you want. But what I do with people is before they can come to me for counseling, any sessions, these are things they must have filled out prior to getting to me. They must read the policies and procedures. Then they must fill out this release of liability form, which notice at the bottom it has a notary public, and they have to go and have it signed and documented with the notary public. And so again, we're just trying to make sure that the church is protected and you as a counselor is protected as we use this form. Now, I want you to notice another form. The next one is called the Personal Data Inventory. And again, this is the one we're using. Feel free to adjust it any way you want. And notice it just has different questions on there. And what I do with people is, again, these are things that they have to fill out prior to seeing me for counseling. So if they need a week or two to get this done, that's wonderful, that's fine. But we don't have our first session normally. And again, there are exceptions. I'll make adjustments here and there. But what I try to do as a guideline is that not to meet with anyone until these things are taken care of. So notice the personal data inventory. And you would want to have this if you look at some of the questions on there, because prior to meeting with someone for counseling, this gives you some insight as to who and where they are, and you can begin to think about what you need to do as you start your first counseling session. Notice some of the questions, for instance, where it says, briefly answer the following questions. What is the problem or concern that brings you here today? What have you done about this problem? What are you expecting from counseling? Is there any other information we should know about? Spiritual convictions questionnaire. Describe who God is. Describe who Jesus Christ is. These are valuable questions that can save you a lot of time in the counseling process that if you had up front, you could structure your counseling sessions accordingly, having this information prior to meeting with them. So I suggest and encourage you that you have people read the policies and procedures, fill out the release of liability form, and have the personal data and inventory ready to or actually completed before meeting with you, and then you have it, and then you do the research and reading and looking at it using the principles that you've learned in biblical counseling, start to organize your sessions accordingly. And if you look at the very last thing, you have what I call a case report form. And this case report form is for you. After every session, I encourage you to sit down and fill out this information after every session. What this does is you're not going to remember everything all the time, and as you start to have more than one counselee, this will be helpful because then you can go back and review your notes to see what you did, where they are in their progression. And so I won't read all the questions here, but if you were to commit to doing this every time, you would have a wealth of information to see the progress and to document what's going on with your counseling. And if something should happen to you and someone needs to counsel the person, they can take your documentation and pick up from where you are and move forward. So this is just a few things here and there that I wanted you to have and to dialogue with. And hopefully this can help you in your process. And as you start counseling, you try this. Get yourself organized this way, and I think it'll be very helpful to you, as well as hopefully could legally protect you from some of the craziness that's out there. God bless you, and I hope that you have been encouraged by what you have experienced thus far.